There was a time when goalkeepers didn't just stop goals, they stole the show. In the 1990s, the man in gloves was often the most memorable figure on the pitch. His jersey was oversized, his movements unpredictable, his role less scripted. He stood alone, not just in position, but in spirit. This wasn't the era of build-up play from the back or XG metrics. This was instinct, presence, madness, the kind of madness you remembered. In the 90s, goalkeepers weren't just part of the system. They were symbols of their clubs and countries. Their presence defined teams. You didn't need to see the badge to know who they played for. Their silhouette, their scream, or their celebration was enough. These weren't quiet professionals. They were warriors, performers, and when they stood in goal, you felt the difference. Oliver Kahn didn't smile. He roared. He smashed the ground when defenders made mistakes and barked commands like a general. In the 90s, he was Bayern Munich's wall, intimidating, tireless, almost theatrical in his intensity. He didn't just protect the goal, he dominated it. Kahn's presence alone reduced striker confidence, and his reflexes backed up every threat in his stare. He wasn't trying to play football, he was trying to win wars. Peter Schmeichel was less rage, more force. The Danish giant threw the ball 60 yards with precision, punched crosses like they owed him money, and made reaction saves that felt physically impossible. He didn't move like a goalkeeper. He moved like a handball player trapped in a football match. At Manchester United, he wasn't just a last line of defense, he was the first line of attack. He made goalkeeping proactive, violent, and somehow poetic. Fabien Barthez was the opposite. He smiled too much and felt like a trickster in a world of seriousness. But beneath the eccentricity was a world-class keeper with lightning reflexes and a clutch mentality. France didn't win the World Cup in 1998 and Euro 2000 without him. Not every goalkeeper in the 90s followed the traditional script. Some tore it up completely. These were the ones who didn't just defend their goal. They rewrote what it meant to be a keeper. They blurred the line between goalkeeper and outfield player, between footballer and performer. With them, the position wasn't just tactical. It was personal. It was chaos. And it was unforgettable. René Higuita is the first name on any list of goalkeeping chaos. The Colombian didn't just take risks. He made them art. His scorpion kick against England is still played in highlight reels, not because it was necessary, but because it was audacious. Higuita often dribbled out of the box, took free kicks, and played with a freedom most goalkeepers wouldn't dare try in training. He made mistakes, big ones, but he also made history. He made goalkeeping something you watched not with analysis, but with disbelief. Jorge Campos didn't look like a goalkeeper, and maybe that's why he was so effective. Short, acrobatic, and dressed in self-designed neon kits, he was unlike anyone before or after him. Campos would often leave his line to play as a striker and score. In fact, he scored over 30 professional goals. But even when in goal, his cat-like reflexes and fearless approach made him a fan favorite. He played with joy, improvisation, and constant motion. If Higuita was chaos, Campos was creativity. José Luis Chilavert was something else entirely. The Paraguayan was a born leader, aggressive, vocal, and authoritative. But he was also a goal scorer, with over 60 career goals from penalties and free kicks. He once scored a hat trick. As a goalkeeper, Chilavert combined brutality with brilliance. He didn't want to be remembered as a good goalkeeper. He wanted to be remembered as a winner, and he made sure you heard him every step of the way. Not all great goalkeepers of the 90s were flamboyant. Some commanded through silence, through positioning, through presence. They didn't draw attention, they erased it. No wild kits, no tricks, just control. These were the keepers who turned risk into calculation and made the most demanding role in football look, somehow, composed. Andreas Kupke was never the loudest man on the pitch, but he didn't need to be. The German keeper became a pillar of consistency for club and country, most notably during Euro 96, where he played a central role in Germany's title. His game was built on fundamentals, perfect angles, clean handling, and unshakable concentration. There was nothing theatrical about Kupke, and that's what made him exceptional. He kept Germany's goal with absolute clarity. Thomas Ravelli, on the other hand, showed that calm and chaos can coexist. The Swedish goalkeeper became an unlikely hero at the 1994 World Cup, especially after his penalty save against Romania in the quarterfinals. Ravelli wasn't technically perfect, and at times looked unconventional, but he thrived on pressure. He had a dry, almost deadpan energy that masked a deep competitive fire. He didn't overthink. He reacted, laughed, survived, and advanced. Gianluca Pagliuca was Italy's answer to cool-headed control. He was the starter at the 1994 World Cup and one of Serie A's most consistent performers. Tall, agile, and with a unique sense of timing, Pagliuca read games like a center-back and kept his emotions buried. His positioning made difficult saves look simple. In an era where goalkeepers were often defined by intensity, Pagliuca stood out by remaining still until he needed to move. The role of the goalkeeper has changed. Today's keepers are technicians, sweeper keepers, parts of tactical machines. They are judged by their passing range, their save percentage, and while that evolution has brought a higher technical level, it's also taken something away: the freedom to be different, the freedom to be unforgettable. Thomas Nkono, the Cameroonian who inspired Gianluigi Buffon to become a goalkeeper, didn't have the media spotlight of Europe's elite, but he had the respect of those who watched closely. Agile, acrobatic, and ahead of his time, Nkono played with emotion and instinct. He could make a save feel like an act of rebellion, graceful and desperate at once. In a sport moving toward uniformity, his career now feels like a rare note from a different symphony. And maybe that's what made 90s goalkeepers special. They weren't replicas, they weren't models of a system. They were themselves, flawed, brilliant, emotional, strange. And even now, decades later, we remember their saves not just because they mattered, but because they meant something. Personality, risk, style, things you can't teach and can't repeat.